Hi, having a great day. You're watching JJ Entertainment, and for this video, I'm gonna go over my Andor episode 6, which is called The Eye Breakdown, where I go over the deaths, first of all, this episode, which there was a lot of deaths, the heist in general, what I think about it, and the themes of this episode, which I thought were really nice to explore the dark side of the rebels and all that type of stuff. I think it was really nice to explore, so we're gonna go over that, as well as some theories that I'm gonna have over in the next episode, episode 7, and the rest of the season. So yeah, let's get started with this breakdown. I guess that's what I gotta call it. As well as just my top 10 moments and all that type of stuff, what I think about each character's development, all that type of stuff. So let's get started. So first of all, we finally got the heist that we've been building up for the past 2 episodes. So like it continues a 3 episode arc of like the first 2 episodes were set up, and the third episode is like the full-on blowout, just like the first 2 episodes of Andor were. Same thing with these next 3 episodes. So we finally got the heist that they've been building up to, and it denies the point. It was amazing, packed of deaths, packed with action, tension, and huge development towards the story that it's just gonna blow throughout the whole season. Like it's definitely getting the story moving way faster. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. Now the episode is called The Eye, which is in reference to the Eye Adonis event, with the planet Adoni, the event that they have, which they call the Eye, which this tribal group who the Empire hates has like celebrates, which is interesting, and it's like an event that happens like I think I've read every 6 years, so that's really interesting. That's pretty awesome. And now going to this tribal group that we were mentioning, the Empire has reduced them massively. Whenever the Imperial person was talking about how before they used to be like 600 people, now there's only like 80 or 60, something like that. Like it's like a huge reduction in numbers just because of all the trash that they put, and they're trying to really get rid of this tribe, which is really annoying. And it shows why the Empire has to be stopped. And just see how they're like getting rid of these indigenous cultures, which is just a different side that we never really thought about it that much, what the Empire would do. But it is something that is like very villain, and also like something that really reflects the real world. Like for example, like the US, like what about them with other indigenous basically cultures, what happens with that, and as well as many other countries. So I think that was a really interesting thing to include in this episode. I was like, oh, that's interesting, because they didn't have to include this tribal group, but they included it, and it also makes the world building a lot more realistic. Like of course somebody would like worship this the Eye event and the planet, because it looks like it's something like super celestial and everything, so it's really interesting. And the Eye itself provided itself for a lot of very beautiful shots that I will be just going over as I go through this video. So yeah, I really enjoyed this kind of new and original idea of the Eye. It was really awesome. Now, on to the heist plan. First time I'm gonna start with how the episode started, and that was with Nemik saying that he can't sleep, and this actually brought in some really nice stuff, like with his conversation with Andor, where he was like, "But you can sleep," and then so on, and he was like talking about how we shouldn't have about how the rebels shouldn't have any lines to stop the Empire, because the Empire doesn't have any lines to stop the rebels and make everybody listen to the rules. So that was really interesting. As well as Andor tells him how he was gonna be able to sleep after this mission, kind of give him the foreshadowing that he's gonna die, and he tells him that don't worry, that because of the adrenaline and the excitement, you will stay awake the whole time, which I definitely believe that's true. So that was really interesting. So I really like that conversation. Moving on, throughout the heist plan, Nemik was really important. First of all, he was the timekeeper, which is obviously something super important, because if it wasn't because of him keeping track of the time, these people would have taken forever. So that was really good. He also has the coordinates to go, like he was planning to go up or down, to climb up and climb down, which by the way, the fact that his last line was climb is really interesting, because K2SO from Rogue One, his last line to Andor was climb before he died, and same thing here with Nemik, his last line was climb and then he died. So it was really interesting, and it's some really nice stuff that Tony Gore had to write with his writing team. Now Nemik's death, of course, really hit hard for me. I thought that his death was really emotional, because we've been building up this character, we've been really getting to know this character, and he's the youngest one, he was the strongest believer, so him dying definitely hit hard. And then his manifesto, whenever they get the manifesto to Andor, I was like, oh, that's so nice, that was so good. So yeah, thanks for that bond that he built with Andor, and therefore the audience, and just how likable he was. I thought that he said that was really awesome. And I also really just like how his death was. It wasn't like in the battlefield, but instead it was like once they were already escaping, boom, one of those crates hits him and basically kind of paralyzes him, and then therefore he dies later on. I thought that was really interesting. I think just the way that they gave him that death, instead of like having like this heroic death like somewhere in the battle, this is how he dies. I thought it made it super realistic, and I was like, yeah, stuff like this would happen, and I really like seeing that way that the death scene. So that was really awesome. And going back to the conversation they had at the start, I really like whenever he was like, "You mean nothing to the Empire," and then he was like, "But after tonight I will." And then Andor was like, "Be careful what you wish for." I thought that was a really nice line. But you know what? He's gonna meet with the Empire now because of the thing he did. But Andor obviously knows what he's talking about. He's like, you know, maybe I don't want to meet him to the Empire because you know he just killed somebody and the Empire like really hates him and everything. So that's really interesting conversation, like I said. So yeah, Nemik overall was really good in this episode, and I really felt bad for Stead. I was so sad, so devastated. Like no, but yeah. All right, moving on. Barcona also died, and who was this character? Well, he was the ex-stormtrooper, which I thought was interesting that they gave us that information. For you know, really romancing of Finn here. And I kind of wish that he would have stayed alive, to be honest. Just because he's an ex-stormtrooper, I wish he would have explored that more. Because we never really got to explore that with Finn. So it would have been really cool if we explored that with him. But I did think that it was really interesting that thanks to that, that's why he likes to give orders a lot. And that's why he knows the stormtrooper code so well. That's pretty awesome. So I completely understand that. So great stuff for there. Skeen instead was also something that really surprised me. Mostly because, you know, they made out the mission. I was like, okay, that's so interesting. But then he decided to betray them. You know, even after he seemed like he cared for Nemik for taking him to a doctor, he tried to betray the team by telling Andor to fly a thing with him on, and then we'll just split up to share 40 million credits and 40 million credits. That was really, really interesting. I was like, wow, I did not expect that from Skeen because he really seemed like he blamed the cost. I really did believe his story about, you know, his brother suiciding for the farm, and I obviously believe the story about, you know, he was really untrustworthy of Andor and everything. So that's really, really interesting. You know, he almost tried to kill him and everything. So I did not see that coming. So I really thought that it was a betrayal. However, I did love how that enhanced Andor's character development because he just shot him, you know. So you truly do see that, yeah, Andor's here for the third place. So first of all, he has a code. So I really like that. And you also see that, you know, he does blame this cause. He does not want to screw this cause over. He doesn't want to, like, he hates these people. He hates people that, you know, that are faking this because, you know, he's actually suffered a lot for the Empire. And in fact, we know that he was in rebel groups back whenever he was young. So it makes sense that he does not want to do this. Like, he definitely doesn't want to betray this rebel group that just worked so hard and sacrificed so much people, including Nemik, for this mission, only to just steal the credits. Obviously, he would not let that, and I really like that he just shot him. So yeah, that was really nice stuff that I think the episode explored. Moving on from that, I think the Imperial General and his family was something that they thought was really interesting. First of all, I like that he first of all was talking really a lot of smack about the tribal group, so that really sucks for the tribal group, and it just makes him look like a complete douchebag. But then you see that he has a family, he has a wife, he has a son. And so I thought that the inclusion of this family was really interesting because of the way that they played it, because the rebels kind of ended up forcing him to do their bidding because they were pointing a gun to his son and his wife. So that was really, really interesting. And in fact, I thought it was so interesting whenever that Imperial officer was like, the kid go. You know, you never saw that side. You know, you would think that they're all douchebags. So, you know, they're still human beings, so I really like that. They're not full on like completely disgusting people, you know. They still care about things, including this person who was like let the kid go. So that's really interesting. I really found that kind of perspective analysis really interesting. And you know, from a certain standpoint, you know, this does make the rebels look like the bad guy, and that makes sense. You know, rebels are technically terrorists in this universe because they're terrorizing the government of the Empire. So I think that's some interesting things, and how sometimes you have to lower your moral code to fight this other moral code, which is what Nemik was exactly talking about at the start of the episode. Really interesting stuff that I really like how Andor is exploring this and not letting this go. Like, it's really trying to have these interesting conversations, which I think were kind of planted in Rogue One, which I you know, you can definitely see those seeds planted in Rogue One. But because this show is a longer show and you have a bunch more time to tell the story, you really get to explore these things a lot better. And I think they're doing a great job exploring that with at the kind of like having a kid as leverage and all that type of stuff. Like, I think that's really interesting stuff. Just like just rebels do bad stuff to get this rebellion across. Really interesting stuff. I really like that exploration. Now, moving on from that, I also really like that he kind of dies from the heart attack. That was like kind of weird, or I don't know if he dies, but he had this like has a heart attack or something. So that's really interesting, and I liked his face whenever he finds out that Gorn was the person that planned this from the inside, like the lieutenant that he trusted. I thought that was a really interesting face. Like, he really was so surprised and shocked. So I thought that was pretty cool. And talking about Gorn the lieutenant really played a huge role in this. Like, he had a really well elaborate plan. His one side definitely helped him get this plan across. So that's really interesting, and I really like that scene whenever he's like, "I'm your officer, get out of here." And you know, you really know what's gonna happen. You don't know if they're actually gonna get out there, it's gonna be a shootout or not. Like, it's really, really interesting stuff. Which brings us to the next point. The heist was really, really interesting because even though the plan was going amazing, you know, there's so many people in this base. There's still so many people that a lot of things could go wrong, which is really interesting. And they did go wrong, but not because the plan was bad, but because there's just too many people to account for, which I thought was really interesting. So I really like that way that it worked. But beyond that, I really liked the fears. For example, Belle, her fear of heights was really interesting how they explored that. Of course, not every person here is going to be experienced and like be fearful and do everything they're asked. Whenever she looked down and she was like scared, I was like, that's some interesting stuff. I would be scared too if I was in a mission, even for whatever cost I really believe in. I would have expectations, like jumping from that high from this, and I've never done this before. Yeah, I would have my expectations. You know what I mean? So I really like that they explored that, and also like love her like being rough and tough whenever she's like talking to the Imperial people. She's like, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. I would chop off your hand if you want to, and that type of stuff. I really love that rough side because you like I said, you gotta have that mask on that you're rough in front of them. So I really like that. So yeah, love the exploration of Belle, really good, and the exploration of the realistic views of the mission of like having your fears, having to conquer them, and finding your own inside problems. I think that's really interesting. And talking about Belle, we gotta talk about her lover Cynthia, who I thought was really interesting that whenever they said goodbye to each other, I was like, oh, why are they saying goodbye to each other so much? I always thought Cynthia was gonna die, but then it turns out that she just stays in the base because they don't pick her up. So I don't know what exactly is gonna go on there. Like, are they just gonna capture Cynthia, or what's the case? It's same thing with Gorn. I don't know how that's gonna work. So I'm really curious. But yeah, I thought that worked really well. I was like, okay, yeah, the goodbye worked for me. So yeah, characters that I am curious to see if they're going to show up later in the series, and I think that they will. So I just want to see what role exactly they play in the show. I'm really curious. Now going on to Andor, who Andor had some amazing scenes in this episode. First of all, the fight at the ship. Whenever he was like about to drive, and the guy started like choking him, and first of all, like he was fighting, and then like he hits him on the cockpit, and then he starts choking him. Really interesting stuff. And then obviously Nemik saves his life, which I'm still so sad that he died. But anyways, I thought that was a really nice fight scene. Then his decision to take Nemik to the doctor shows his humanity. He really did bond with his kid, so I thought it was really awesome. That just showing that he does have a heart and he's not just a cold-blooded murderer. You know what I mean? And then him killing Skeen, I really like that. I mean, Diego Luna played that scene perfectly. His face acting just radiated it. And then whenever he goes in and he has to hold the gun and he sees that Nemik's dead, and he's telling him like how he's just gonna take his cut of the part of the money. He gets Belle the crystal, and then he tells her to give to his friend, which is Luton, and that's how they part ways. I thought it was really interesting. So yeah, I really like Andor's exploration. Diego does an amazing job playing him. Like his face acting throughout the heist was really incredible. I really love his face acting throughout the heist. Whenever Belle isn't responding to the comms and he's just like making the face like, are we gonna do this or not? All that type of stuff. It just worked really well. I love his face acting. And then when he's like, how do you want me to climb? If this is the case, like all that type of stuff was really awesome. And by the way, when that whole scene, whenever they're flying through the eye, oh, so good. The cinematography in this episode was amazing. Beautiful. So yeah, I really love that. Now, going on from that and just talking about the dirty side of the rebellion, which like I said, kidnapping the kid and the mom was something really interesting, using them as leverage. Just killing these Imperial people in general, who obviously we see them have families and all that type of stuff. I really like exploring this gray side of the rebellion, and I really can't wait to keep seeing how we explore more throughout the show. That's the number one thing. I'm super excited, and I just can't wait. I'm really excited. Now, this episode brought all the storylines colliding at the end. First of all, with Luton laughing at the end, which I thought was a really nice way to end the episode. Whenever a customer caused a rebel attack in Donnie, I thought it was really interesting that they finally called it a rebel attack. So that's good. He starts laughing. Amazing way to end the episode. It was truly awesome. Then Mama being ignored whenever she's in the Senate because of this rebel attack news breaking out, showing that this has gone super popular and the Senate and everything. That's great stuff. So it's going to collab that storyline as well. And then the ISB sector, focusing all efforts on this rebel attack. Once again, bringing all the storylines that we've had from the ISB and colliding with the main storyline of the show that we've been following. And this means that now that the rebellion has finally gotten its official name, and now they have the credits to be able to actually finance everything and start doing bigger attacks on the empire and everything. Really, the show can start moving a lot faster and getting grander in scale, which Tony Gore himself has been really excited about. He's been teasing a lot that the show is going to get a lot bigger in scope because now we finally have the means to be able to do it, narratively speaking. So I thought it was interesting, and they said like they really wanted to build up the show from like the lower scales all the way to when they get to the big guns, which says it's going to be super grand in scale. So I'm really excited about that. Now, something's going on to episode 7. He did mention that this episode 7 is finally part of like an arc, having this 3 3 episode arc. Episode 7 is going to be like the weird one where it has kind of like this own really self-contained story that just advances the story forward. So I'm really curious on that. I think we're going to focus a lot on the ISB sector just because of the rebel attack. I think we're going to focus on how they explore it and how they kind of get to this new point. And I think I was going to explore how Andor is going to get back involved with the rebellion. So I think that's going to be really interesting, and I really can't wait to see that and how the rebel group kind of reorganizes themselves. I'm really curious. And then episode 8, 9, and 10 are going to be all together as an arc again. So those 3 episodes. And then episode 11 and 12, he says, are going to be by another arc, and they're going to be like the finale of the show. They're going to be of season 1. So that's really interesting. I really like that organization. So yeah, I really like that. Now, another thing I forgot to mention about the episode is just the TIE fighters. They gave me so much horror. Like, Andor has managed to make them super horrifying, which I never really experienced that because, TIE fighters, you always see them flying around. I'm like, okay, whatever. But, like, wow, they're really horrifying. And they made some really nice shots with them where the guys getting into a TIE fighter and the eyes in the background. Some beautiful, beautiful shots. So, yeah, this episode was just full of beautiful cinematography, beautiful writing. I love the death scenes, love the heist, all that type of stuff. Love the realistic view of the heist, the gray side of the Rebel Alliance, and just how, even though the plan was going right, still stuff went wrong and all that stuff. It just went really, really awesome, and I absolutely adored it. So yeah, this was my spoiler review, breakdown, theories, all that type of stuff for episode 6 of Andor. Tell me what you thought right down in the comments. Did you like it? What was your favorite thing about it? And were you devastated when Nemik dead? I'm very curious. Down in the comments, and also any theories that you have down in the comments. As well, just please leave a like if you just this breakdown. It would be very helpful. So please leave a like and subscribe for more content. I'm trying to do this video every week for each new Andor episode, but please get to subscribe so you don't miss any of these videos that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. And yeah, that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And this is Jay Entertainment.